I intend to display its broken hull in the center of the Romulan capital as a symbol of our victory. It will inspire our...
Hello! This week we've dredged up some fantastic facts all about the classic Season 3 episode, The Defector, whereby the Enterprise takes on a Romulan who wants to defect. Normally, not much out of the ordinary happens when filming Star Trek The Next Generation episodes, but this week was an exception. Stay tuned to learn about exactly what went on. Now, the week before this episode was scheduled for production, there'd been a dramatic blaze at the Paramount Studios, and so a lot of the productions had to be taken off-site while the studio area was made safe again. The rest of the Paramount Studios was being used for the Addams Family and Floppy the Squirrel, and so the closest studio area for them to use for Star Trek was the tiny Rivermead studio up in Oregon, which was owned by Paramount.
Admiral Jarrock has provided me with the locations, strengths, and tactical plans of the rock.
There was only space for one set at a time in the small soapy studio, and so they had to keep taking it apart for each scene, as the director, Robert Shearer, always demanded to film his scenes in order. One particular problem that reared its ugly head at this time was that Lever Burton was unable to film in the state of Oregon because of outstanding warrants due to his cousin Tim using Lever's car the year before on a ride up to Seattle, whereby Tim had driven over 120 miles per hour. The Highway Patrol were keen to lock up Lever and throw away the key should he be seen within 10 meters of an Oregon trail. Because of the tricky relocation, Marina Citrus allegedly got lost on her way up north as she wasn't used to the poor design of US road signs. That's what she says anyway. Most of the actors and crew had travelled together in Paramount coaches, but Marina Citrus was adamant about driving her snazzy new Porsche, paid for by her amazing acting. She'd gotten so lost on the way that when she realised where she was somehow over 400 miles further to the east.
You've got him. You must decide if he's telling the truth. For now, I suggest you proceed along the neutral zone.
One person who really kicked up a stink about filming up north was Gates something, who had possibly had a terrible reaction to the area's rough dust. Before this, she had never even left California in her whole entire life, so was only acclimatized and accustomed to the LA area. The nightmare of leaving the comfort of her home state had played havoc on her well-being, and it's a testament to her brave nature that she even came back alive. Even though this episode is called The Defector, the true defector was producer Marvin Whale, who reportedly left after this Hensing episode to help put together the early pre-production on rival and copycat TV show Babylon 5, which would go on to shock audiences all over the globe with its realistic graphics. While on the subject of defecting, Patrick Stewart possibly joked that he hoped that Rick Berman would defect to a different production so he wasn't always sniffing around in the Star Trek studio. Unfortunately, young Will Wheaton, the sneaky weasel, went straight to Rick Berman and told him exactly what the Picard actor just rasped out of his lips. Things became frosty between Picard and Berman for a few weeks, and would only get better once the Picard actor gave Rick a relaxing massage after a hard day's work. Now, rumour has it that the Worf actor had to relay the message to poor Marina Citrus that her mother-in-law had completely died during Marina's long drive north while she was getting lost. All Citrus had to remind her of Mama Boo Boo, as she called her, was a large plastic ring on her finger, emblazoned by a large marigold flower design that Mama Boo Boo had given her for her birthday earlier that month. As an item that was close to her heart at the time, she refused to take it off during filming, as it meant too much for her, so the cinematographer had a hard time that episode, making sure that the tacky plastic ring was out of frame for each scene that they filmed. The actor of the Romulan Defector had accidentally put his costume on backwards, as he'd never seen a Romulan before, or even a Romulan costume. When the wardrobe department tried to explain to him that it was on the wrong way around, he struggled to understand their American words, as English wasn't even his first language. At Rick Berman's insistence, they eventually managed to hold him down and pull off the costume, which unfortunately caused a small amount of stretching to the costume's fine fibres. The Defector was the first ever episode where we hear the Romulan language spoken out loud. Gene Roddenberry had made extensive notes about how that Romulans should be sounding, describing them as being a bit like muffled potatoes. But Rick Berman, in an unsurprising act of disrespect, made it sound quite the opposite. When the team returned to the Paramount Studios from the Rivermead studio in Oregon, they soon discovered that the homeless that lived behind the panel of the Enterprise bridge had trashed the whole bridge set. There was dirty mud smeared on the carpeted ground, rubbish strewn across the consoles, and filthy handprints smudged all over the shiny display screens. If the homeless continued to make a mess like this, then the Burton and Spiner actors would surely lose interest in feeding and watering the poor bastard. The results of the poll that I took recently clearly show that 64% think that Season 3 is even better than Season 2 by a bit, while 36% of humans think that it's actually far better. So thanks for voting if you did. Thanks ever so much for watching my terrific facts. Weren't they terrific? Hit the like button if you think that liking it is terrific, and go ahead and leave a comment. I'd like that very much, because I do always read the comments. Even if I've had an eye injury, I still try to read the comments. So thanks very much, and I'll see you next time. I think we've got some Deep Space Nine facts coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. Not on this video though, on a different one. Bye, ta-ta.